today we are going to be talking about navigating your career as a first generation student. Next slide, please. And just a quick introduction, my name is Elissa Ungerman. I am with the University Career Center as an experiential programs assistant, and I mainly work with internships and approving internships for credit. And I will go ahead and pass it over to Derek for his introduction.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening, depending on when you're watching this. I am Derek Jackson. I'm the program specialist for first generation student programs here at UT Dallas, run out of the Office of Undergraduate Education. So happy to be here with you all. As you know, first generation programs are collaborating with multiple campus departments. One of our closest partnerships is with the University Career Center. So really excited for this conversation and looking forward to engaging with everyone.
Thank you. And Lucero, passing it on to you, or Lucy. Lucy, did we lose you?
Yes, sorry.
No worries.
It's like transferring. Hi, I'm Lucy. I am a PhD student right now in biomedical engineering, and I am first generation student. And I'm here just to receive any questions that you have as our journey as a first generation student.
Thank you so much, Lucy and Derek. Really appreciate you being here. Kayla, next slide, please. So first, we're going to get into some really great information for you all about navigating your internship and job search as a first generation student. We're mainly going to be covering some of the issues that you might be facing and some solutions to go along with that. We'll also go over some resources that we offer at the University Career Center. And then later on, we'll have a discussion and a Q&A, and let's get started. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the first issue that commonly pops up for first generation students is networking. And the main problem is that there is a lack of personal connections to gain early opportunities and network. So just a quick little statistic, 95% of recruiters use LinkedIn to find candidates. LinkedIn is a very easy and easily navigated platform for you to use that can connect you with a plethora of people in all different types of industries. So we encourage you to get on these platforms like LinkedIn and Handshake, which the university pays for you to use, and to connect with employers who are looking to hire students. Even though there's been a decrease in internships, we are actually seeing an increase now that we are making our way slowly but steadily out of this pandemic. So definitely make use of the online resources. It's as easy as just downloading an app on your phone. And virtual events are at an all-time high. To emphasize that again, the pandemic has shown us that we can easily communicate virtually with employers. So make sure that you attend these networking opportunities and other recruitment events that are being held virtually, and that can increase your access to these connections. Also, make sure that you start with some close contacts of yours that can include peers, advisors, faculty, and staff, and ask them, hey, do you know anybody? You can even be as specific as in this location, in this industry, whatever you want, and ask them if they have anybody in mind that might be offering an internship or an experiential learning opportunity. And then, of course, finding a mentor is very important in the networking process. And we actually have a really great event coming up tomorrow at 11 o'clock. It's in Handshake as well. And it's called Experience Talks, Seeking a Mentor. So make sure that you attend that and you can learn a little bit more about the mentorship process. Next slide, please. So another large problem that we found first generation students combat are financial issues. So financial barriers can keep from taking an unpaid internship or relocating for a job. So again, a great solution to this is the increase in virtual opportunities. Lots of jobs have been found to be able to be virtual now that we have experienced the COVID pandemic, and a lot of us have worked from home. And sometimes a lot of these jobs are actually staying virtual. A really great example is my brother in law who works for IBM here in Dallas. He is pretty much been offered to be able to work virtual for as long as he's with the company. It's really great to know that companies are very understanding of the need to go virtual. And on top of that, finding a virtual opportunity helps you break down those location barriers. So if you financially can't go somewhere else or move somewhere else, um, maybe it's a place that's more expensive, like the East Coast. Maybe you can find a virtual opportunity there instead, where you can live in a more affordable location like Texas or like Oklahoma, just to name another location that is nearby. Uh, Additionally, it's important to seek scholarships and federal assistance when you are looking for financial opportunities. So, the Office of Financial Aid can assist you with that as an example of an on campus resources. Lastly, it's important to set goals and search for opportunities early. So, make sure that you're setting goals for yourself. That could be as simple as I'm going to apply for 10 internships this week. And just keep yourself accountable and make sure that you are searching out these opportunities as early as possible. So, if you want to find an internship by summer, you should probably start looking in the fall, because the recruitment process can start very early for certain companies, but it can differ for the different companies. So, I also encourage you to research if you're interested in a particular company. Make sure that you go on their website or reach out to a recruiter and let them know you're interested, and also inquire about the recruitment process and how early that starts. Next slide, please. So, bias is a really huge issue for a lot of people, and first generation students are also commonly from diverse backgrounds, and that can lead to potential unconscious bias during the recruitment process. So, here are some solutions for that. Make sure that you research the company and employee background and makeup. There are a couple different websites that you can access to do kind of like a background check on these companies and look at what I would call a diversity, equity, and inclusion index. Some of these websites include Canaris, who we've actually worked with before on a program, Forbes, Fortune, and Vault Campus. Also, ask questions that are important to you during the recruitment process. Uh, Make sure that you ask about, what are the company's values? What does the company value about diversity itself? Asking these questions can really show you a lot about what the company stands for and if that's the type of company you want to work for, and a company that you would hope would also value you. So it's important to inquire about that. And then, of course, attending Career Center and first generation program events such as this one helps you learn about breaking down bias and overcoming that. So definitely keep attending our events because we can help you navigate that issue as well. Next slide, please. So now that we've gone through all of that, here are some of the resources that we offer at the University Career Center. That includes workshops such as this and recruitment events. We have had a lot of virtual recruitment events that have been through Handshake, as well as career fairs. So make sure that you're always checking in on Handshake. Things get added on the daily as far as events go. So if you know what you're looking for, there's a really easy to use search function where you can type in, say, maybe you're an engineering major, just type in engineering and there will be plenty of programs that pop up for you to attend. We also provide resume and cover letter help. Probably the easiest way to do it is we have a great resume editor email, and that's exactly what it's called, resume editor at utdallas.edu. And you can email your resume there, and one of our student worker peers will help you with your resume. You can also meet with one of our team members or one of our career consultants to help you with your resume and cover letter, and we can help you prepare for that application process through that. We also have interview coaching. I've gotten to sit in on interview coaching before, and it's really great. They help you with your body language, with your tone of voice, preparing you to answer some of the tougher questions that might be asked of you during the interview. So I definitely encourage that as well, because it's a great way to rehearse for this process. And then in general, we also just have career coaching with our career consultants. And we have career consultants that cover every academic area at UTD. So make sure to connect with them, and they can also hopefully connect you. Part of that networking piece that we talked about earlier, they can connect you maybe with people that are in the industry as well. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass it over to Derek to talk about some of the first generation programs and the resources that they all offer.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that overview. And as first generation students here at UT Dallas, you are automatically included in all of our first generation student programming. And we have a website, firstgen.utdallas.edu. When you go to that, you'll be greeted with a video that pretty much gives an overview of the type of programming that we provide and how we do that. You can go over to our current students page where you'll be greeted with a list of resources. We try to keep our events list updated there. Resources that includes the University Career Center. I mentioned before that the UCC is one of our closest partners. So we have a full list of resources, and we also have our first generation student support network, and we have which encompasses faculty and staff in every single college here at the university who are ready, willing, and able to support our first gen students in any way that we can, including connecting you with resources, offering forms of mentorship, and just supporting you in any way that we can. One of the things that I want to mention is that I am both a first generation student and a UT Dallas alumnus. I graduated from UT Dallas, and one of the pieces of advice I like to impart upon students is don't do what Derek did. See, I did not go to the University Career Center until I was in the last semester of my master's degree. And I have been at UT Dallas for 6 years. Definitely don't do that. The earlier you get involved with the Career Center, the more that you can build those relationships, the more you can increase your skill set. And let me just tell you, after a few meetings with the University Career Center, with the career consultant, specifically with the BBS career consultant, because I graduated from BBS, I felt prepared to enter into my interviews. Now, can you imagine how prepared you can feel if you start earlier than I did? So just wanted to put that out there. Also, as first generation students, we have a lot of intangibles that help us to use our first gen identity in a positive way to leverage our existing cultural wealth. Like we have our families, and we have the mentorships that we leverage throughout our time in undergrad. So that is something that you can definitely lean on. And also, I want to point out our e-learning. This video should be appearing on our e-learning page. We also have our First Generation Commons YouTube channel, which if you're watching this right now on our First Generation Commons YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our uploads. But we have all of these resources available to first generation students here at UT Dallas, and we very much look forward to supporting you along the way.
That's great, Derek. Thank you so much. And I completely agree with starting with the Career Center earlier than later. I think I also waited till the last semester of my master's degree, and I definitely don't recommend that. And especially if you kind of get nervous, like I do, just not having that practice, like with a mock interview or anything like that. Um, it can be very nerve wracking when you're trying to find your first full time job.
Yeah.
So definitely connect with us early. We also have a YouTube page where we post a lot of our virtual events that we've had. So subscribe to us too. I'll piggyback off of that as well. But yeah, lots of great resources with the first gen programs. They do a lot of really great work. So next slide, please. We're going to be moving into our discussion portion. So if you have any questions so far, just let us know. You can use the raise hand feature if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question. You can even feel free to turn your camera on. We'd love to see you. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and just kick us off and ask Lucy and Derek just a little bit about some of the struggles that we covered already, and what did we miss? What are some other issues that you all have seen or experienced yourselves for that first generation students encounter just in the career search process? You're muted, Lucy.
So still getting used to this virtual. As a first generation student, it's kind of we're the first people of our family to go to school. And like my parents were uneducated; they didn't even have elementary, so it was kind of hard to ask them for help because they wouldn't know how to help me. So for me, I think it was that I didn't have like actual connection to education, and it wasn't really like not an option, but it wasn't really like there um, for me. But it I think it was like not being afraid to ask, that my counselors and my teachers and recommendations from what they got and they told me really helped me like move along my path, my career path.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what you said. I liken it to going into it without there's no really a blueprint, right? Since we are the first in our families to go to college, uh, you know, and not really having a blueprint of like really where to start. And one of the things that we encounter a lot is these unwritten rules. There's the hidden curriculum, as it's referred to, of yeah, you can when you approach a professor, do it X, Y, and Z way. Things that they don't really tell you like explicitly how to do. And it's the same way with internships. And so I remember being a sophomore, thinking, oh, there's internships that's a thing that I can do. Okay, but then there is obviously, and I will be first to admit that I also struggled a little bit with a little bit of imposter syndrome when I was coming up through UT Dallas. But the way I overcame that was if there was someone, be it a professor or a staff person, who was really approachable and was there to provide some support, I went to that person. And that can be an intimidating process. Like, I fancy myself to be super extroverted, but I still had a little bit of hesitancy before I booked that appointment for a one-on-one meeting with during office hours. And that's okay, because I understand that. That is why we provide the programming that we provide, so that we can be your advocate and resource when we're making those types of connections. So it can be a challenge not really having that blueprint, but the way to overcome that is just to leverage like existing partnerships or resources that are available to you. And it it starts with having that first conversation. Once you have that first conversation, that's really the hardest part done. And then that's how we're able to open up avenues for other resources moving forward. So getting past that first conversation, it doesn't have to be a perfect one. Just getting the ball rolling is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, really great answers. And I I completely agree that, it is just as easy as asking sometimes, when you're trying to reach out and build your network. And I'm wondering, how hard was it to kind of build that confidence to reach out to people? Because I think maybe that's a lot of students' hardest, maybe personal issue to overcome, is just like having the confidence to reach out to people and ask for help. How do you overcome that, and how do you move past some of those issues?
Do you want to go first, or I?
Oh no, go ahead.
Um, I guess I guess maybe it's a first gen thing, but there is a lot of self doubt. At least in my case, reaching out, how he said it was a little hard, and I was afraid to, but I did have to overcome that little obstacle. Um, uh, so I guess for finding the resources or having the connections, how he said, like, after finding the first one, the second one is a lot easier, because either you get introduced to someone or you get in an organization that has multiple people. So you just need to take that one first step, and then it will line up after that. um, but yes, I do recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be a challenge, right? I mean, using the office hours as an example. Now, like, not everyone is going to be. That's not everybody's forte. Like, I can't just. And so I got my master's degree in psychology, so I'm a psychology student by training, and so I liken it as to the shattering of different bubbles, right? So suppose you're in your student bubble. I'm sitting in class and I'm in my student bubble. I'm here. I'm sitting down, and the professor is in their professorial bubble, Doctor So and So. And when you are in the classroom, 300 on one, it's fine. Once you then are asked to go into a new sort of like social situation when there's just you and that professor, it can be a little intimidating. But think about it like this: the professors, the staff members that you are going to approach are human too, and humans love human interaction. So if you, I'm all about positively reframing the situation. People love to talk. We're social creatures. Um, we really love that interaction. And also keep in mind that if you are feeling this way, the chances are of other students also feeling that way is very high. So you're not alone in that. And by virtue of us being first generation, we have been building up this sort of like motivational resiliency capital since the beginnings. As soon as, because I know that this will resonate with a lot of people, as soon as you got to the point where we were in elementary school or in high school, where you passed your parents' level of their education. I remember when I was about to go into, I think it was algebra two, and my mom was like, "Okay." When I was in high school, like algebra two is why I stopped. So it's then this process starts early on of us building up that resiliency and that capital, being able to then utilize it when the time comes. But I'll always tell students to just reframe it in a way that leverages your strengths, and also remember that humans like social interaction. So it's all about taking that first step. Hopefully that will help folks who are kind of on the fence about it to think of it that way.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Really great answers from you too, about just overcoming some of those confidence issues, for sure. So, moving on to the resources and just trying to find and navigate those. What are some resources that you yourself have used or you have seen students access that you think are the most beneficial to navigating the college sphere and the career search process?
So I guess when I entered for my undergrad, I didn't know what to expect. Um, and I didn't know that there was like applications for scholarships and stuff like that. Um, so I kind of got a really surprise. So I didn't know until the semester had passed that I could have applied for like FAFSA and like uh, well, it was called JAMP. It's a pre-med program, but I didn't know that I could apply for all that. I found out afterwards, but it was because I didn't ask. I We had a academic advisor, and I because I entered with a associate degree from my high school. Um, I basically didn't get one, but I had to ask for one. So because of that, I was a little under taken down a little bit, but after that, I took advantage of my academic advisor, and I if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't register for other programs that I did, and that's how I got my summer internships, because I applied because he like recommended it, and he gave me like a bunch of online resources that I I went for. So yeah, so it was very for the professors, and then my academic advisor were the ones that really helped me um, with my for resources for my internships.
It's amazing you mentioned that because that's the exact same story for me. Um, I still have a good relationship with my academic advisor from, gosh, in August it'll be 10 years ago since I was walked onto campus at UTD as a freshman. And the academic advisors are, those are some of the very first people that you interact with. And again, I know it can be kind of like this overwhelming process. But when you're having that conversation with your academic advisor, any questions that you may have, uh, our academic advisors here at UTD, especially I can speak for the BBS advisors, the School of Behavior and Brain Sciences, are really just phenomenal. And so if you ever have a question, even if your academic advisor does not know the exact answer, they can point you in the right direction. They can say, hey, as a matter of fact, Professor so and so, or this person over here is the director of the Career Center. We've worked with them in the past. You may reach out to them. And so what we do in the Office of Undergraduate Education for our first generation students is we take that approach. Let's say you reach out to us, which by the way, I will be putting my email address here in the chat, and it will be in the video description box below. You reach out to us and say, I just want to sit down and have a chat. That's a perfect way to start. Let's say you're interested in utilizing Career Center resources. I was like, okay, great. Let's do an introduction. I'll introduce you to Elissa and all the great folks over at the University Career Center. And that's how the networking starts. And I would say when you are in that position, really finding a good resources and a good advocate is going to go a long way. And the great news is you have ready-made advocates already here during your time at UT Dallas with us. So it I think the theme of this has been like taking that first step, leveraging the resources and the advocates because we are so ready to support you. But I'm glad you brought that up, Lucero, because that was exactly how I started to make my way into that realm.
Yeah, really great points about reaching out to people that serve in an advisor capacity. Um, I know that I've had personal experiences that are similar to that have really helped me try to navigate some of these areas that I wasn't as familiar with. And I think the really great thing about colleges and universities, and this is kind of, I think Derek probably relates to this. Just I know you kind of serve maybe more on like the academic affairs side, but I feel like you're pseudo student affairs too. But
Oh, we exactly are.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, when you reach out to somebody that works in student affairs, even if they're not exactly the person you need to talk to, a lot of us are very familiar with kind of just, I would describe it as a jack of all trades of knowledge about just different resources on campus. So, I remember I got a call from a student that was just kind of panicking about a lot of different stuff that it wasn't really necessarily related to career stuff, but I was like, okay, let's kind of just outline and break it down, like where you need to go, who you need to talk to. So definitely trust that people that work in these capacities are really easy people to talk to, and it is part of our jobs too. But most of the time, it's something that we care about as well. Just to emphasize that, so definitely reach out to people in those advisory capacities or who work in student affairs, because they'll know somebody, So I think those were really great points to bring up by Lucero and Derek for sure. So let me look at my next questions. Uh, I want to kind of hone in on some of these barriers that we talked about. We talked about just the networking part and trying to find those connections, but what do you two think is maybe the most common barrier first generation students face when they are navigating the college climate and trying to find jobs and internships?
I think for me, it was three of them. I think it was the resources, money, and family. Um, for money, it's because I come from a very poor family. So it's like you either work a job that pays you, that is a cashier, or volunteer, or like at a lab to get a research opportunity during the summer. So it's kind of like if you choose both, it's a little bit something is going to lack, either your schoolwork or so it's a lot of balancing. Um, and then for family, I guess my family wasn't really supportive of my education because they didn't understand that that's like an option that could be beneficial for me, um, because none of them actually had it. So the support really wasn't there. Um, and then I'm sorry, I already forgot my last. And then um, uh, resources, because I didn't really know where to start. I didn't know how I could actually get a job with what I had, or what do I needed to get a job, and what is important. So I had to kind of look around and ask and Google and try to figure it out. um, and it was hard, but as as we said before, is taking the step is really what you need. But um, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that was pretty comprehensive there. What it boils down to is time. Like I think that was the biggest thing, especially for me. I was taking at least 15 hours as an undergrad, and I had two jobs. Like both of them were part time, but when you add those two together, like it's essentially you have like a full-time job while you were trying to take classes. So I had two part-time jobs while I was during the semester, and then I still had those jobs, and then added a third one, uh, which was at it was at a water park. I cooked on an outdoor grill. It was 100 degrees. It was really something. So time was a big thing, and that's frankly how uh, I kind of disqualified myself from some opportunities because I was like, well, I got to work, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it. And I didn't realize until I actually started working in higher education here at UT Dallas that there are ways that we can overcome that. And just a little quick origin story for first generation student programs. It was born out of a comprehensive needs assessment that was sent to a few thousand first generation students here at UT Dallas. And we developed actionable responses to them. And it was kind of validating because, like, okay, the same things that I was experiencing, it's all over the place with our first generation students, which is why we have resources like what you're viewing now to make these resources more accessible, because when I had the time, it kind of went hand in hand with them not being as accessible. And so we're leveraging the e-learning, we leverage our YouTube channel, just making sure that people have the information so that when you send that email, you already have a working knowledge of the resources that are available. Um, and I'm having a thought in real time. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lucero, but did you serve on another panel with other first gen career ladies? I, okay, because
Yeah.
you mentioned familial support. By the way, I'm going to link that video in the description box. Well, you should definitely check it out. It's great stuff. Um, and those on the call, I'll also send you that link. But yeah, that's a big thing, because as first generation students, we're not only managing our education. We a lot of times we have still ties to our family. I know that I was working so that I could help my parents, help my mom specifically with some bills. So we that all leads into eating into the time budget that we have. But thankfully, we do have resources at UT Dallas that we know that that's the case, and we are helping to make those resources more accessible.
Is an
So
assessment a wonderful thing? Sorry, Lucero. Go ahead.
can I, yeah, can I add something to that? So his time was really related to my money problem resource barrier, because I was also working two jobs. I didn't know anything about work study, and I didn't know that it's like works around your schedule.
Yeah.
If you do have a part-time job somewhere else, it's super hard to like leave and go to class and then come back. That was a really challenging thing. But then when I found about work study, I could quit one of the part-time jobs I was doing and have a work study job, and it got a little bit better. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Work study is so important, and a lot of people tend to not know about it. So I will say that we host that out of the University Career Center, that we run all things student employment. So if you have any questions about that, you can let me know, and I can connect you with our fabulous people that work in that section of the Career Center. So to move on, maybe more into the personal side, I'd love to hear more about just your career journeys that took place alongside navigating the college academic part as well, and just trying to work these jobs, but also trying to really develop the careers that you wanted to pursue long term. So Lucero or Derek, whoever wants to start, I'm very interested to hear more.
So because I was working two jobs at the beginning of my first year, when I got my academic advisor, I actually asked what I could do, and he told me about work study. And he actually told me about a program called PRIM, which it was a material science program for undergrads to do research, and you got paid for it. So it was in close alignment to what I actually wanted to do for my future career. So I just applied for it. And then because of that, I actually got my first internship. I went to UNM, University of Minnesota, as a REU student, which is a MERSA. It's a sorry, it's it's called MERSEC, but it's a NSF grant funded uh, program, which is one of the largest funding sources for science. Um, So I went there, and they actually welcomed me to come back then the summer afterwards. So I really appreciated that. And then because of that, because I did research, I chose to do the PhD route, and now that's why I'm here. And then during my PhD, I guess my professor has a lot of connections. So he connected me to one of the persons that work for the FDA, because I'm interested in the government for my future position. So I sent him an email and talked to him in person, and um, I had an interview later on, and I got an internship with the FDA. So I went over there for 6 months, and after that, I came back, and I'm still here. Yeah, but honestly, yeah. So that is my journey so far.
That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way. That's incredible. One of the reasons why I am so passionate about the work that I do is because of how I got to this position. I did my undergraduate in psychology, and I decided in when I was a sophomore taking social psych that I really like this. I think I want to go to graduate school. And so, through the help of professors, I successfully got admitted into the master's program at UT Dallas in psychological sciences, where I dabbled in research and I learned how to do research. But more importantly, while I was in that program, I realized that I enjoy research. I can do it, but what I really like is its application, like the direct application. And I really like interacting with people and talking with people, specifically my peers, like my fellow college students. And so I stress connect the resources and advocates a lot, because it's because of my advocates that I'm literally sitting here able to make this video. Um, I remember I graduated. I wanted to apply for a PhD, and I was unsuccessful the first couple of times, but that's okay, because while I was still volunteering in the lab, I was approached by a faculty member that was like, "Hey, there are some children coming to visit UT Dallas from where I grew up, because I grew up in Oak Cliff. They're from Oak Cliff, and like, would you want to come and talk about what your experiences as a graduate student?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so I go there. This happened in this. They met over in JSOM. I go there, and I saw for the first time since 1999. Is it 99? No. Yeah, so the first time since 2000. My second grade teacher, who was still teaching, uh, and I saw her, and I was talking to the elementary school students and telling them about what we do. And so Dr. Gensch was like, "That was really good. Hey, you have a master's degree. How would you like to do a teaching role? We have some undergrads who are going to be doing an internship. You should lead one of the classes, the sections. So you have a master's degree, you can teach." And so that was how I got into higher ed. Like, that was my first foray into higher ed. So I did that. I ended up teaching two sections, and then Dr. Gensch wanted me to go to a conference in her stead. So I went, where I met other UT Dallas colleagues. And then one of those colleagues was like, "Hey, there's this job in the Office of Undergraduate Education. You should apply for it." And then Dr. Gensch was like, "Yeah, you should definitely apply for that." And with their support, and knowing the role and knowing that I would be successful at it, I successfully interviewed. It's funny because my supervisor, Dr. Courtney McKean, who is also oversees first generation student programs, I actually used her data during my master's, so we kind of had that connection already. Point is, I started. That's how I got here, because I had advocates, and Dr. McKean would go on to suggest that I apply for the doctoral program in higher education at UNT, which I am currently a student in right now. So it is amazing how things work out, but it all started because of the resources that advocate that I had, that Lucero had, And that is why I am so passionate about being that advocate for other students, because that is how I got to where I am. And I realize that that is what you have to have as a first generation student. You have to have people that are going to be in your corner who can connect you with those resources, because